Meeting. This is June 19th, 2024. Would you all please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We welcome everyone. Tonight, Commissioner Martinez is on his way to Idaho for some meetings up there, so we excuse him. Our first item on the agenda is approval of minutes. We don't have our June 5th meeting minutes yet, so
Motion to table.
Motion to table, and I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Item 2 is the Utah Department of Transportation, in partnership with Carbon County and communities within Carbon County, conducting an emerging area study for the area, and will be presenting the results. So, Dan, are you going to take the lead? As each of you come up, if you'll state your name, that'll help with our minutes.
Yes, good afternoon, commissioners. Looks like it turned back off on us. Got the magic button up there, right?
Maybe. There it comes.
Okay, good afternoon, commissioners. My name is Dan Hinckley. I am the district engineer for UDOT. My office is here in Price. I cover the southeast part of the state. And today I'm here with our team from our planning group out of Salt Lake City. We have engaged in what we call an emerging area plan. And the study process, the goals of this plan is what we'd like to go through first this afternoon. And then we'll talk about some of the outcomes and the future steps with this study. So the purpose of this plan, we first identified Carbon County as being a location where we anticipate additional growth to happen. And we want to be prepared for this growth, want to be able to welcome the growth in and have the needs, transportation-wise, other facilities, other infrastructure ready to go for this growth. And to gain a better understanding of some of the needs, our goals for the study were as outlined on the screen here. First off, we really wanted to work with the elected officials, stakeholders, and the public to gather any details, any thoughts that they have about what some of the needs are. We knew that as we would include them in our decision-making process, we could have an increased level of ownership. As we met with different focus groups, including the public, we had several workshops. We created a regional transportation plan to fit the vision that all the communities in our county could work toward. Through this study, we anticipate that we'll continue to provide mapping and technical assistance to support the local planning work. We'll talk about that in some of our next steps as far as some of the grant resources that are available. And we also wanted, along with that, those funding sources can help us complete the work plan items. And most importantly, again, we want all communities to feel like they're on board with us, that we're working together in a collaborative effort to make sure that this county is ready for the growth that will come eventually. I've got a little graphic on the screen here. Let me walk you through this real quick. What it looked like, we started this process last summer in 2023, started meeting with different communities, different public groups. We, from there, established our vision and goals for the study. Through the fall and the winter, we worked through this to better define the needs and then start looking at what some of the potential solutions are to those visions and goals. And then this spring, we're wrapping the study up, and we have identified several ideas of things that could happen to help the growth or help be prepared for the growth in the county. So want to talk about this action plan. Again, this was our first step. Let me just read through these 5 goals that we defined for the county. Number 1, provide local and regional transportation options. Number 2, expand and diversify economic growth. Number 3, expand and diversify small town housing. Number 4, improve community pride and engagement. And number 5, improve the overall health and well-being. So as we focused on those 5 goal areas, we've come up with several actions and broke it down even further into needs, and then the actions that go with those needs, and then who might be responsible to help those needs be solved or resolved or improved in the county. So,
Dan,
question, yes.
Just not a question, but just maybe a little bit of additional information. Maybe go through some of those that were involved in the meetings starting back last summer, and who all had input to develop what's being talked about here.
Yeah, absolutely. I know somewhere in here there was a diagram of, let's see, maybe we'll go back. Here's some of our partners. These are some of the groups. You see their logos up here. And we did involve a few more people, but so the local government association, they recently updated their name. We were involved with them, Wellington City, the county, Helper City, East Carbon City, Price City. It seems like we also reached out and had some input from Prywide. The university was invited to participate with us. Of course, UDOT was very engaged with this.
Maybe one thought too is each of the cities and it wasn't just elected officials, but it was staff who deal with these things day to day that help with input.
Yeah, we really wanted the input of those people who are hired. They're the experts in the area. They're the ones who this is their job day in and day out to help these things happen. And so it was great. We had a lot of input from all these entities. It was neat to see the level of interest in helping create a good plan to move forward.
Thank you.
Yeah, another thing we did was we did create a public survey. We sent that out so the entire county could respond. It was not quite, we didn't get the response we had hoped for, but we still had a few dozen respond to that. And that input, of course, was weighed into this. And we've got actually on this website here, you'll see under that stakeholder engagement and supporting information, you'll see a lot of the results of that public survey in there. Which I love looking at because I'm an engineer, but no one else really likes that, but it's all good. So let me just go through these 5 areas briefly. Of course, first, we're looking at providing local and regional transportation options. One thing that we've recognized, and you'll see this word repeated on this slide quite a bit, we want to make sure we have quality roads. We would also like to see a regional transit option created of some sort. We recognize that studies have been underway, studies have been completed on this. There's much that could be done to help our community better connect those who live in the outlying areas, such as East Carbon, to come into town and to Price for hospital facilities, for shopping. There's a lot of opportunity there, and we recognize that. We also recognize that as we improve transportation, there's an opportunity for more businesses to come in. And we recognize that there's opportunity for Sorry, I got ahead of myself. But as we go through these plans, let me jump back because I started talking about the economy. But last one on here, as we increase and have easy to use active transportation facilities, that goes along with the health of the community. And we're excited to see, as UDOT has currently started the Utah Trail Network, we've got one of our first projects underway to study the feasibility of connecting the trail from Price to Carbonville. So we're looking at that currently. Okay, let's talk now about the economy. Again, this is what I was starting to talk about, how we know that we can get more jobs. We can build the workforce in Carbon County with a resilient and improved transportation system. We've recognized that as the economy is somewhat transitioning from mineral resources, that there's definitely a need for us to improve and diversify the economy. And a lot of that can happen through transportation. There's quite a few bullet points under this expand and diversify the economy. Again, we recognize that we need to be ready to support larger industries. But as we do that, don't forget the medium and small local businesses. Tourism is an opportunity. And then alternative energy development is something that there's potential for that also in our community. Okay, our third point was expand and diversify small town housing. It's very interesting in our county. There are some homes that are sitting vacant, ready to be sold. There's a lot of need though for very affordable housing. There's new projects coming in, according to Price City, that we should see some of that happening. Our study talks about the need to create and implement a collaborative housing plan, that as we work together with community leaders, the different communities, the cities, the county, we'd like to make sure that we can collaborate. We know that we need to have access to water resources for these housing projects. There's a lot going on with a potential new reservoir, things like that. And so it's definitely, this was an interesting point. I think there's a lot of interest in this one, especially as we think about our future and our children, the potential of them to be able to live here. I personally feel like this is a huge need for us. Okay, let's go to number 4, which is improved community pride and engagement. We talked about just a few different things here. Just 3, improve the cleanliness of shared spaces. And we got down, as we got more granular with this one, talking about how we could enforce county and city ordinances to help clean spaces up. How having good sidewalks really helps us appear as a community that's better put together. We talked about some of the other programs that have been tried before and could carry on, such as yard programs, recognizing those who do a good job taking care of their spaces and their properties. And then lastly, we talked about improving conservation, recycling programs, water conservation. So there's opportunities there for us to be ready for this growth that may come. Lastly, let's talk about improving the overall health and well-being. We, at UDOT, better health is part of our framework. We know that as people are able to get from place to place, be it exercising or making sure they can get to a hospital, we can make sure that health is something that gets improved. It's a very important point to us. And so we would encourage recreational opportunities, social connections through having recreation centers, walking paths, having more of these mountain bike races or other off-highway vehicle events. There's a lot of great things that are currently happening, and so we would encourage the community to keep doing these good things and then expand them as is appropriate. And then lastly, the last point we got on here was increase natural open space, as we recognize that open space creates just I think, frankly, that's why we live here rather than on the Wasatch Front. We just love being able to have open space here, and it feels so good. And to make sure that as we develop and grow, we maintain that is going to be key. Okay, just a couple more things I'd like to talk about, and then we'll be finished. The overall need, we recognize a need to continually communicate and update the public regarding the plans. There's a lot that's happening, be it as we sat down with Carbon County or Price City or Wellington or East Carbon City, we recognize that there's overlapping efforts. And so we would encourage, one of our study finds is that we do a better job communicating from entity to entity what's happening, and then we can not redo each other's work, but we can work together and perhaps get more done more effectively and more efficiently. As I mentioned, there are many grant opportunities available. And so on this webpage, as you land on this slide or this part of the page, there's that pop-out box on the top right. And if you tap on that, it'll expand this page. And there are many, many grant opportunities available. You can use these filters on the left-hand side to dial down to what your entity is, whether it's state or local government, profit, nonprofit. And then you can see, again, our 5 different goals on the top left that you can filter down to different grants that apply primarily to those different subject areas. And a pretty neat website that the team has put together here. So that's our study. Yeah, if I could, let me introduce our team. Chris Hall is our region planning engineer located in St. George. Travis Hare is our engineer over the studies located in Salt Lake. And then we have Kim Clark, a consultant, and Andrew Mosier, also a consultant that's helped us out with this. Chris, go ahead.
Chris Hall with UDOT. I was going to just jump in and say that sometimes these grants can feel like they're overwhelming. If they're anything to do with transportation, UDOT is willing to step in and help apply for anything like that. So let me know if there's any of these grants that you want to pursue for transportation, and we can help in however we can. And also as we did a lot of outreach to the community, there are several people in the community that's really good about other grants, that there's people in the community you can reach out to for help if it's not related to transportation, that they're very aware of the grant process and could be very helpful. So if you identify some of these, we don't want you to feel overwhelmed that there is help out there. If you identify something that would be a good fit for the community to go after, we can definitely coordinate to try and make sure that there's the right people involved to get the grant writing not to be so daunting.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
I think Travis wanted to say a few things too.
I just wanted to, Travis Hare with UDOT. I just wanted to fill in a couple of blanks just because I think one of the questions that you'll have after looking at this big study is UDOT does roads. Why are we talking about economics and housing and all of these other things? And the reason for that is, transportation is a long-term thing to think about. It takes a long time to get things into a transportation plan and get funding for them through the state or through the federal government, so that those can be at least 10, oftentimes 30 to 40 years out, a timeline on that. So the reason that we need to talk about those other things and get plans in motion for housing and economy and things like that is, as things change and things grow, the more that you can be ahead of things instead of just reacting to things is really important. And so that's why we wanted to provide as much grant information to start getting those pieces in place, so that those decisions, as we are able to get things online to take care of state routes and US 6, that your road plans for your cities and counties are already in place and your housing plans are already in place. And we know where those things are happening so that we can provide transportation to them. So that's where all of those things are linked. Each one is a smaller piece. So, the economy is a big thing. When you're going to have, if you want a large employer to put down roots, they need ways to get people and goods, if that's what it is, in and out. if it's, if it is housing, we need to make sure those people can get to where they need to go safely. So that's why all of these things are linked. So just wanted to kind of point that out.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions or I participated in this, the meetings and found it very helpful to sit with the other entities in a little bit different setting and throw out all of the concerns and questions that are out there to help pull things together to where we can prioritize. So thank you for what you've done.
I guess the only question I would have is how often will you be revisiting the plan to update it?
So for this specific thing, there's not necessarily, what this is a work plan for everybody. And so there's a list. What we didn't go into is we kind of went over the goals on a higher level. Underneath each one of those was a task, and then kind of who's responsible for that. So what we want to do is say, okay, communities, these are your lists. As you're getting those done, let's work together and with the regions and with people who are local, let's work on those and we can update those as necessary. So it's more of an on as needed kind of basis. We don't want to come in and do the whole study again unless there's a real need to. But the goal is to go, okay, everybody needs a housing plan. Like if that's in that housing list. Great. As we get those housing plans done, let's incorporate that into something so everybody knows what's going on and everybody knows where the transportation needs to go. So it's more of it's a longer term thing than kind of updating your general plan, which I know for some places is also a longer term thing, but for those kind of more frequent updates like you would have, this is not something that has a set timeline. It's more of, okay, we've gotten enough of this done. Does that change what we need to do? And it's more fluid than that. So we can update the website if we need to as things get done.
Okay, perfect. That's kind of answers my question. I just, if it's not a fluid and updating constantly, it just becomes stagnant, and the needs of today with housing and economic growth may not be the needs tomorrow. It may be something completely different.
And I think we would work with the AOG a little bit of, okay, now that we have this, how can we keep the information going back and forth so we don't have to necessarily do a big collect everything again? We can kind of go as it comes in. Okay, what does that change? And Price has done their housing plan. The county's done theirs. Who do we need to reach out to get stuff done?
Perfect.
So,
thank you.
all right.
Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you.
Guess there's really no action here.
No action.
It's just a report. Well, thank you for doing the report and the study and bringing it to us. Our next item on the agenda is item 3, consideration and possible approval of a state grant. Denna Fausett.
If I can, where would you find the general public? Where would they find that study? I don't know if we talked about that. Can the general public see that? Yeah. That might be helpful for the general public to know where to look at, so that they can see what's happening as well.
Yeah. So we're trying
Sorry,
to
Dana.
finalize where we're going to put it. We'll have it on UDOT's Region 4 website, but sometimes that can be difficult for the public to find. So we're trying to brainstorm of where the best place. We'll probably provide a link that the county could put on their website so people can access it easily.
That would be great.
And that way it's not, you got to go search for something. So we'll figure out the best way and provide you a link so everybody can access it, and you guys can provide on your website.
Thank you.
Perfect.
And in the meantime, I do have a really short link that you can utilize, but it's not official because I know that all these things are supposed to be utah.gov URLs, so it's not currently. It's shorter.me/Carbon County. So that should take you directly to that website in the meantime.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Denna.
Thank you. I am just, it's grant time, and so I was just wanting to get approval for the continuation of the state funded grant this year. we've left everything the same, other than we did move some funding around, but they weren't asked, or they would not allow us to add more to it or anything. But what I did is I just moved a few categories around to be able to compensate some of the supplies that I use. Our other category, which is for victims that need gas cars, help with rent and stuff. We were given $1,200, but what ends up happening is I deobligate it because I don't use it, because we have other resources in the community that we have been using. So what I did is I moved 700 of that over to supplies. So because we have a VS tracking program that is coming in at $1,300, in the past, the grants only paid $397. That's all they gave me in that. So I moved some of that funding, decreased some of the supplies so that we can make up for that, so that the county could get reimbursed for that. Instead of deobligating money back, you guys would get reimbursed for that. So other than that, I just left everything else the same. And so I just was wondering if I could get approval on this grant to submit it.
Any questions?
I don't have any questions. We went over this the other day and I kind of talked about it. So I'll make a motion to approve the state grant application.
And I'll second. All in
Thank you.
favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Item 4 is review and possible approval of the IDC grant for public defense or public defender services.
So this is the Indigent Defense Commission grant. I sit on that board and help look at these grants. Obviously, I have to abstain from this one, but they reviewed it. Nothing really changed from year over year. It's the same grant. It's providing indigent defense services between all of the cities in the county. It's just kind of lumping them all into one grant, kind of regionalizing our effort here, and then utilizing the same public defenders in each of the cities to help share that load. So I don't, unless you have any questions about that, it really nothing changed year over year. It's the same amount as it was last year.
I don't have any questions. I think for the public, this is an important thing. So those who are in the court system that cannot provide legal services for themselves, the county has to provide those. And it's a very large amount of money each year, $782,000 that goes towards paying attorneys to provide that service for those folks. Christian, you have anything to add?
We've been doing this for several years now, largely because the caseload has become too large for any one single defense attorney to handle. And so basically there was the whole state was forced by the ACLU and several public defender advocacy groups to up its funding for public defense, stating that we're far behind the times in the services that are provided to indigent defendants. And so for the last 10 years now, the state has been bolstering what we pay or helping out with what's paid to public defenders so that they can focus more on each individual case and do a better job for each criminal defendant. So the eyes of the world have kind of been on this area of government funding for the last several years. The state of Utah stepped up. Commissioners have stepped up on this. It's important for the public to know that this does not, we are not allowed to supplant our own budget on this. In other words, the IDC says if you lower your own budget because of this grant, we're going to deduct what we give you. So basically, it doesn't help the bottom line for the commission in balancing its budget, except to the extent that it does make us in compliance with what's being paid regionally and everywhere else. But it's not anything, unfortunately, that allows us to say, well, now the state's paying for public defense, we can use that money somewhere else. The condition of it is that you have to continue to fund public defense at the same rate you always have. But in any event, I think it does provide for better, the more public defenders there are, the more individual attention is being placed on each case. We are doing, I think, as good as any other county and any other state in providing public defense. If you are a defendant in Carbon County, you're going to definitely have a chance to meet with an attorney and spend a lot of time with that attorney to prepare your case. So I think the commissioners are to be commended for participating in the grant program, and I think it's a reflection that we care about every one of the citizens in the county, that you as commissioners do, even those that get in trouble and need that legal help. Thanks to you, they get very good legal help, and part of that is this grant funding. So that's more than you needed, but I think it's important to know it reflects a commitment on the part of the county commissioners to care for even the most desperate of our citizens.
Thank you, Christian.
I guess one thing to add to that, just to put the numbers in there, $782,633 is the total budget. The award that we get from the IDC is $332,800, and the portion that the county pays is $449,833. So we do receive a fairly large, even in comparison to other counties, a fairly large grant. And some of that money is available for experts, depending on the case. If they need experts, witnesses, and things like that, there is some money available for that as well.
Any other discussion?
Oh,
A motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the IDC grant for public defender services.
And I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Item 5 is consideration and possible approval of the 2024 certified tax rates. Seth?
Yeah, each year after the tax rolls are closed, data from the tax rolls and values are inputted into the state's certified tax rate website, and the state helps us calculate the what would be the certified tax rate. And maybe just for the public's information, what that means as far as certified tax rate, that is the tax rate that is charged to each taxpayer, so that the taxing entity, in this case, the county, receives the same budget that they received last year, the same budgeted tax revenue, as well as any new growth. So if there are any new homes built or garages or whatnot, that certified tax rate would include any new growth or new revenue from those new buildings. So we have 4 different tax levies that the county has. There's several others, and again, maybe just for additional information, the county, when you pay your taxes in general, if you're in the out county, approximately 26 to 27% of the taxes that you pay actually go to the county. The rest goes to other taxing entities. So something to consider. In this case, all the other taxing entities will be doing a similar thing as what we're doing tonight. They'll be meeting in a public meeting, reviewing their certified tax rates and approving them either as they stand or there's again, as far as more information, when we approve certified tax rate per state code, we can go ahead and approve the certified tax rate, meaning take exactly what we did last year plus any new growth. There's always an option to increase the certified or increase our tax rates. To do that, you have to go through truth and taxation. That's not something that we did this last year. I believe there's only one taxing entity that did, wasn't the county. There's also the option to take less than the certified tax rate, and that's very rarely done. because that's a decrease in your budget, in your budgeted revenue. And it's not a 1 year thing. If a taxing entity was to take less than their certified rate, they would lose out on revenue for that year, but it would be for every year after that, unless they went to truth and taxation and increased their rates back up. So something that the commissioners might want to chat or talk about here for a bit. In discussions with our office and the commission, they've indicated some interest in taking less than the certified tax rate, which is something that we haven't done as far as any time I can remember. But let me go through the different tax levies that we have, and then we can kind of discuss what we've talked about previous to this meeting. So the 4 tax levies are, first, the Municipal Services Fund. So this is a tax levy that is for tax revenue that goes into our Municipal Services Fund. It's services that generally a city would provide, like law enforcement, road maintenance, that type of thing. But this is specific for the out-county areas. The certified tax rate, or what we would have as a certified tax rate if we were to take the same amount of tax revenues last year plus any new growth, would be 0.002026, and the revenue produced by that would be $2,584,961. The one that we've discussed previous to this meeting is to take a lower tax rate than the certified, which would be 0.001994 would be the tax rate, and that would produce a budgeted tax revenue of $2,544,132. If that's something that the commission still wanted to do tonight, that would be a decrease of $40,000 in tax revenue for this levy. That's a reduction from what the certified tax rate would have allowed us to take. That's even a reduction from what it was last year. The second tax levy is just the county's general levy, which goes into our general fund for most of the county general operations. The certified tax rate would have been 0.002410. That would be a budgeted tax revenue of $5,449,180. What we've discussed prior to this meeting was a proposed tax rate of 0.002379. That would produce a budgeted tax revenue of $5,379,087. So that would be a reduction from the certified tax rate of about $70,000. So that's the decrease there, if that's something you still want to go through with. There's also a health levy that we lump in with our general operations. It produces a revenue of $262,284. We generally lump that in with our general operations, general county levy. And then just real quickly to go over the other 2 levies. There's a multi-county, or sometimes it's called a state assessing and collecting levy. The tax rate, or the certified tax rate, is set by the state. It's 0.000015. And for our county, it produces a budget revenue of $35,218. Again, that's set by the state. That's not really something that we have control over. The last one is the county assessing and collecting levy. This also goes into our general fund. The main purpose is that it's meant to fund the recorder's office, the treasurer's office, the assessor's office, and part of the clerk auditor's office. It's all the things that we do for assessing property and collecting taxes. The certified tax rate for this year is 0.000398. and that produces $935,638. So I apologize, that's a lot of information. Maybe, again, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. The commission may have some comments about taking the certified rate or taking less than that. Thanks.
Thank you, Seth. Do you have a question? Any questions?
I don't have any questions. I think it's just important to mention part of the reason why we're looking at a lower rate is there's been a couple things happen this year. One of which is for the last couple of years, essentially assessed has been kind of held at a level. We haven't lost. As a matter of fact, what was it, 2 years ago, we actually had some new growth essentially assessed. So there was some added value, which helped decrease what we pay as local citizens. This year we took another $100,000 or $100 million hit in centrally assessed. And so when centrally assessed loses value, that burden is then shifted over onto our local homeowners, local businesses, and that tax burden is increased to us, all of us. And so part of the reason why we're even looking at this is to reduce that burden. When we saw that shift happening, is to help alleviate some of that burden on the taxpayers. And I think the other important thing to note is these are just the county's levies. This is not the school district, Pride-wide, or any of the other levies. The cities each have a levy that they have the option of looking at this and reducing their rates as well. But because of where we're at, that's why we're contemplating lowering our rate and taking less in taxes this year than we did in last year.
Yeah, I think, this has been a dilemma and a hot topic the whole time I've served the 5.5 years here. It's always been the goal of us, all three of us, and staff, as we have new growth occur that would, in essence, give the county more money, that we would not put that value into new growth, but we would put it back into the normal tax pool that would lower everyone's taxes. And we've had some growth, but it seems like 2 years ago, I remember it only added $8,000 to the tax roll, and so we didn't do anything with it. But that's our intent. If we have some industry come in that would really change the value and increase the value of the taxable properties, that's our intention, is to not take all of that in new growth, but to begin to reduce our personal property taxes. There's things on the horizon that are looking more positive all the time about industry moving in here, and there's a lot of time and effort put into that to make sure we don't leave any stone unturned, and follow every lead that we can. But so I think in essence what the decision here is, we can fix our tax rate just a little lower than we normally have the ability to do, and that seems to be our desire. Commissioner Martinez is not here, but has expressed the same willingness to do that. So any other thoughts?
Just to put it into perspective a little bit, when I became a commissioner just under 12 years ago, the centrally assessed value, the value of all of our centrally assessed properties was between 1.4 and 1.2 billion dollars. Currently we're sitting, before this year, before we lost that 100 million, we were at 700 million, just over 700 million. Now we're at $600 million in centrally assessed value. So that all of that has been shifted over onto our local homeowners and taxpayers. That's why every year the public has come in and said, you're raising my taxes, you're raising my taxes. In reality, the county and the municipalities, the school district aren't receiving any more money, but the burden of who pays what is shifting over onto the homeowners. And that's been a heavy burden. It was nice. I thought we were at the end. I thought we couldn't slide much lower because we kind of leveled out for a few years there, but that's where it's coming from. And hopefully we can bring in the new industries to fix it. If we're ready for a motion, I'll make a motion. Do I need to state the rates for each levy?
I think it's probably wise, at least for the two, if you're taking less, yeah, I think it's probably wise for those.
I think I have an old worksheet on the general levy. What was the rate?
The general is 0.002379. Lower.
Perfect. Okay, it's right there. Okay. I'll make a motion that we set the rate for the county general levy at 0.002379 for the,
What about the health?
and the health
Second.
at 0.000116. The assessing and collecting levy at 0.000015.
That's the multi-county assessing and collecting.
Okay. The multi-county then? Yeah, that's the multi-county. And then the county assessing and collecting levy at 0.000398. And the county municipal levy at 0.001994.
Any more discussion? I'll second that motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 6 is consideration and possible approval of Casey Hopes as Carbon County Commission Chair beginning July 1st, 2024. And I'll step down and make the motion that we approve Casey Hopes as the county chair beginning July 1st, 2024.
You know, this could die without a second.
Tony will be back.
I'll step down a second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.